Chris Columbus is primarily known as a director of several blockbuster movies, along with his work as a writer on Amblin Productions like Gremlins and The Goonies. However, he has also served as a producer on multiple films for his production companies 1492 Pictures and Maiden Voyage Pictures. By 1994, Columbus had proven himself a successful director with films like the first two Home Alone movies and Mrs. Doubtfire. Those were among 20th Century Fox's biggest hits in the early 90s, and so they naturally signed a first-look deal with Columbus. This led to the formation of 1492 Pictures, named for the year when that other famous Chris Columbus first crossed the Atlantic. Running the company alongside him will be Mark Radcliffe, his former assistant director, and Michael Barnathan. The first 1492 production was the comedy 9 Months, which Columbus directed. A remake of a French movie, the film received negative reviews but managed to perform decently at the box office. The first movie Columbus produced but did not direct was the Christmas comedy Jingle All the Way. Written by Randy Cornfield, Columbus picked up the script, seeing a lot of potential in its holiday hijinks. He then performed his own uncredited rewrites to increase the satirical elements of its story of a father rushing to get the biggest Christmas toy of the season, and hired Brian Levant to direct. While critics were largely negative, it pulled in okay numbers, and has since become one of those movies that plays on television every December. Columbus would direct his company's next two productions, although neither one was for Fox. There was the drama Stepmom, released by Columbia Pictures, which was considered sappy but found a decent audience. Then he directed the science fiction movie Bicentennial Man starring Robin Williams. That one ran into problems as Disney grew nervous over the budget, just as Columbus was ready to start filming. Sony would eventually be brought in as a co-financier and take foreign rights. In the end, the movie was dismissed by critics and flopped at the box office. Around this time, 1492 was also developing an adaptation of the comic book Darktown for Fox. Directed by Henry Selick, the movie was originally intended for Fox's Family Division, but it got more adult as it went along, with the title eventually changing to Monkey Bone. According to Selick, a lot of his original ideas and scenes were removed, and he was not pleased with the finished film. Critics agreed, and Monkey Bone became a massive flop, which Selick attributed to a lack of marketing on Fox's part. Although with the response it got, I'm not sure more advertising would have helped the film at the box office. Meanwhile, Chris Columbus was busy directing what would be the biggest hit of his career. After reading the Harry Potter books, he immediately pictured his ideal adaptation and lobbied Warner Brothers for the chance to direct them. He was selected largely because of his success working with child actors on movies like Home Alone and Mrs. Doubtfire, and for his impassioned pitch of how he would approach the material. Working alongside producer David Heyman on the first film, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, Columbus was instrumental in choosing the young actors who would play the main heroes, along with the faculty at Hogwarts. He sought to bring a timeless and magical quality to locations like Diagon Alley and Hogwarts, while also remaining faithful to the book. When the movie was released, it was a humongous success, pleasing hardcore fans of the books, and praised for being a faithful adaptation. Confidence was so high that Columbus had already started filming Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets before Philosopher's Stone was even released. The second adaptation would also do exceptionally well, with Columbus following the books and taking the story in a slightly darker direction. He truly was pivotal to the early success of the Harry Potter movies, establishing many of the elements that would be key to its long run, with even the themed areas at the Universal Studios theme parks largely based off his version of Hogwarts. Having spent a few years in England filming the first two movies, Columbus felt a lot of exhaustion and longed to return to the United States and spend more time with his family. So he stepped down from directing the third film, Prisoner of Azkaban, preferring to take on a producer role and pass the torch to the next director. Alfonso Cuarón was hired, with Columbus largely staying out of his way and letting him put his own stamp on it. He has also said that working on the first Harry Potter movie even inspired him to be a better, more supportive producer. When he wanted to improve a special effect in one scene, he was told by an executive that it was fine and not to worry about it. Because of this interaction, Columbus promised himself that if a director on a film he was producing felt something could be better, he would not tell them, "No, it's fine." Curiously, while Columbus said he hoped to come back and direct one of the later Harry Potter films, he never did, and Prisoner of Azkaban was the last film in the series he had any involvement with. His first post-Potter project would turn out to be Christmas with the Cranks, an adaptation of the John Grisham book Skipping Christmas. Much like with Jingle All the Way, Chris Columbus saw the satirical potential in the story and wrote the screenplay. He then asked Joe Roth to direct. Roth, incidentally, was the head of 20th Century Fox, who picked up Home Alone and greenlit Mrs. Doubtfire. In the end, Christmas with the Cranks was a box office disappointment, and now often tops the list of the worst Christmas movies ever. Meanwhile, Columbus would have a tough experience on the first Fantastic Four movie at 20th Century Fox. A longtime Marvel Comics fan, he was excited for the opportunity to do something with these legendary superheroes. He first became attached in the mid-90s, co-wrote a screenplay with Michael France, and planned to direct it. He then decided to mainly serve as a producer, and the project went through several directors, including Peter Segal, Peyton Reed, and even Columbus's former editor Roger Gosnell. While Tim Story would end up directing the two Fantastic Four movies in the 2000s, Columbus has said his involvement with them was extremely minimal, as he was dismissed from the first movie and none of his ideas were used. So his executive producer credits were largely contractual obligations, and he does not look back fondly on the way he was treated. Chris Columbus would return to directing with the film adaptation of the popular musical Rent. The response to the film was mixed though, with fans of the musical criticizing its approach to the story, and it underwhelmed at the box office. However, 1492 would score a major franchise starter with Night of the Museum. With its story of a museum where exhibits magically come to life at night, it was a project that certainly fit Columbus's sensibilities. Sean Levy was hired to direct, and the movie became a big audience crowd pleaser when it opened around Christmas 2006 and led to two sequels, which also did well. 1492 would also develop an adaptation of the teen novel I Love You, Beth Cooper. David Russell was going to direct the movie but then dropped out at the last minute, so Columbus decided he wanted to try and direct a film without the usual pre-production planning he was used to. The result was one of the biggest failures of his career, with Columbus later stating he never should have stepped in. He would return to the world of fantasy with Percy Jackson and the Olympians' The Lightning Thief. While The Hope was likely to achieve the same success as Harry Potter, the reviews were not as good and it only did modestly well. Fans of the book also disliked the changes, with the author Rick Riordan being particularly displeased and felt he was not listened to. It's unclear if Columbus or Fox executives were to blame for the changes that bothered fans, but when it came time to make the sequel, he would receive the same treatment that he got on Fantastic Four and was dismissed from the movie. Following Percy Jackson, Chris Columbus would become more of a producer and only occasionally direct something. One production that wound up very successful was The Help. 1492 acquired the rights to Catherine Stockett's book, with Tate Taylor already hired as director. DreamWorks Pictures then came on board as a producing partner who helped get the film distribution deal with Disney. Not only was The Help a critical and commercial success, but it was also nominated for Best Picture, resulting in Chris Columbus' first Academy Award nomination. While talking to Adam Sandler about another project, he asked Columbus to take a look at a script titled Pixels, about aliens who invade Earth in the form of video game characters. He immediately showed interest and signed on to produce and direct. He would play an instrumental role in getting video game companies to agree to let him use their creations in the movie, and contributed a few of his own ideas to the script, like the scene where Pac-Man attacks his own creator. Pixels would end up poorly received by critics and underperformed at the box office, though. Wanting to support the next generation of filmmakers, Chris Columbus and his daughter Eleanor decided to start a new production company that would help fund films by first-time directors. They named it Maiden Voyage Pictures, and their first release was the drama Little Accidents. The movie that would really put Maiden Voyage on the map was Robert Eggers' The Witch, although they almost did not make it. While Eleanor Columbus was passionate about the script, her father had trouble with the Old English dialogue and passed on it. After Eggers had filmed The Witch and edited a rough cut, it returned to the Columbuses, who loved what he put together. They agreed to help get the remaining funding required to complete the film and assisted with the sound mix to make the dialogue clearer. The Witch was very well received and performed well at the box office. The Columbuses would also executive produce his next film, The Lighthouse, and while they did not produce The Northman, Chris Columbus would get a special thanks in the credits. Maiden Voyage also produced Tallulah, the feature directing debut of Sean Heder, the director of the Oscar-winning Coda, Minash, a film of almost entirely Yiddish dialogue, and Patty Cakes, a movie about an aspiring rapper that was picked up by Fox Searchlight. And just last year, Maiden Voyage produced Sean Wang's coming-of-age drama Dee Dee, which was acclaimed for its authentic depiction of young people in 2008. Maiden Voyage's biggest success would come with Robert Eggers' passion project, a remake of Nosferatu. By that point, Eggers had already started to regard Chris Columbus as his closest mentor, saying he was a big help and inspiration during production. It's a partnership that seems to have worked out quite nicely, and Nosferatu would end up becoming a major horror hit over the holiday season. This collaboration is not looking to end anytime soon, as Chris and Eleanor Columbus will also produce Eggers' next movie, which will center on werewolves this time. Back to 1492 Pictures, one of its own recent successes was The Christmas Chronicles. Directed by former Disney animator Clay Kaytis and starring Kurt Russell as Santa Claus, it received a lot of viewers on Netflix and led to a sequel directed by Chris Columbus. 1492 would also produce the adventure film Chupa for Netflix, which was directed by Jonas Cuarón, the son of Alphonse Cuarón. Around the release of that film, it was quietly revealed that the name of the company was changed to 26th Street Pictures. While no explanation was given, it's possible that controversies over the other Chris Columbus led him to distance himself from that association, but this is just speculation on my part. As for what he's working on now, he recently directed and produced the murder mystery The Thursday Murder Club, starring Pierce Brosnan, Helen Mirren, and Ben Kingsley. A co-production with Amblin Entertainment, it is currently set to be released on Netflix in August. Columbus is also developing sequels to Gremlins and The Goonies with Amblin and Warner Brothers, although those have been in development for a long time, partly because of executive changes and indecision at WB, and partly because Columbus has said he does not want to make them until he's satisfied with the quality of the scripts. and he's the one writing the script, so he's being highly critical of himself. Columbus also said that if Gremlins 3 happens, those iconic monsters will be done with puppets and not CGI. Whether it's giving us some fantastical adventures through 49.2 or 26th Street Pictures, or inspiring the next generation of exciting filmmakers with Maiden Voyage, Chris Columbus has shown that he has an eye for interesting ideas, even when he's merely a producer bringing those scripts to his fellow directors. See you next time.